Hello there, people of the internet. I am out here on the gun range today. This is a public gun range. You might hear some gunfire off in the distance, and there might be some wind noise. We got some weather coming in. Nothing I can do about those things. But me being out here, I got a couple of different rifles and firearms out here, and while I was looking at them, I was like, man, I got like a legitimate setup that would be like cutting edge technology in the 1870s. So actually hear me out on that. I have a single shot Trapdoor Springfield, chambered in 4570. This is an 1873 model. There were Trapdoor Springfields that came out. I had one of those hiccups that turned into like an acid burp. Oh, that was horrible. That was horrible. But anyway, there were Trapdoor Springfields that came out before 1873, but they were like conversions from old school Civil War muskets. Allen conversions. A lot of them were in 50-70. There were some that were a 58 rimfire cartridge. Definitely not ideal in comparison to centerfire, and there's some explanations behind that. A lot of it has to do with rimfire needing to be like have thin brass, because the brass crimping in on itself in the rim of the cartridge is what ignites the powder or the priming compound inside of that rim to set off said cartridge. You get center fire, you don't got to worry about having a nice weak case. You could just have that little primer in the center of the cartridge. But there were versions of the Trapdoor Springfield that came out before that, but they weren't nearly as mainstream as the 1873 was. The 1873 really was like the first widespread standard issue cartridge firing, breech loading firearm that the United States gave to everybody. Back whenever the Allen conversions of the Civil War muskets were being issued, but they weren't being issued en masse to everybody like the 1873 would end up being. So 4570, that's a powerful cartridge. This rifle would fire a 405 grain bullet at approximately 1400 or so feet per second. Had 70 grains of black powder behind it. That's a big bullet traveling quite fast. Yeah, that's a lot of mass going down range. As a matter of fact, these right here would also be known as buffalo rifles, because you would use these to take out buffalo, and they did that incredibly successfully, to the point to where there weren't a whole lot of buffalo left. Anyway, I'm out here with my 4570 Trapdoor Springfield, and I was thinking to myself, if this was like the 1870s, this right here would be a really good cutting edge rifle to have, where a lot of people during that time period, I'm sure, were still using muzzle loaders, because that's just kind of what they have. Kind of like how today a lot of people are using ARs and AKs and whatnot, but there's plenty of people out there that are still using grandpa's hunting rifle for their utilitarian purposes. Is that the word I'm looking for? Well, hopefully it's close enough to where you guys understand what I'm trying to say here. A lot of them are using grandpa's old bolt action hunting rifle, or the old lever action the family has, or insert your choice of firearm here. I'm sure a lot of people were still using plenty of muzzle loaders back in 1873, where this right here ended up coming out. So on top of that, as a matter of fact, let me grab my hearing protection here, because I do intend on firing this rifle. On top of that, this right here was a real cutting edge design in comparison to something like a muzzle loader, because it could be loaded very rapidly. Pull your hammer back, open up your breech, and then all you do is you grab your cartridge from your belt or your pocket or wherever it is that you have them, you shove it in, and you close it, and now you are ready to fire your rifle. So that is a lot faster than having to pour powder, ram a ball, seat a primer, and do that every time you want to shoot the gun. Now you can just kind of swap out cartridges. So speaking of cartridges, I have a little target there on the ground. It's a jug that I filled with water. This is a 300 grain bullet with 60 grains of black powder, a little bit less stout of a charge of what this rifle was designed to fire, just because this rifle's like 140 years old at this point, and I don't really want to push it. But I got a little jug of water right there. We're gonna shoot it, spray some water absolutely everywhere. It's gonna be a really good time, and that'll be my example of shooting this gun for this video. Oh boy, that really did spray everywhere. It like turned it into mist. Wow, the 4570 is no slouch of a cartridge. Got some stout recoil behind it. All right, so after that, open this up, round ejects, falls onto the ground, grab another round, shove it in, close it, you are ready to fire again. very fast in comparison to the muzzleloaders that were being used at the time period. One of the big benefits of that rifle is it fired a full power rifle cartridge. The 4570, that's a large cartridge. So it fired a full power rifle cartridge in comparison to like the repeating arms of the day, where the cartridges were a lot less powerful and a lot weaker, just because the repeating firearm technology of the day could not withstand the pressures and the powers of something like a 4570 or 5070 or something like that. So you had your single shot full power rifle because the single shot was strong enough to handle those systems, or you had, like, for what we would call today your pistol caliber carbine, which could fire faster, and it was oftentimes jammed in like 4440 or something like that. As a matter of fact, in 1873, that is when the 4440 came out. So yeah, you would get your 1873 Winchester chambered in 4440. That was a centerfire reloadable cartridge, and you could put down some serious hay with that. I would love to get my hands on an 1873, but man, for $1,000 plus for an 1873, like, I could get myself quite a few other milsurps for that price. So I got my Trapdoor Springfield. That's one that I've definitely always wanted. And on top of that, I've got my little revolver. This right here is a Heritage Rough Rider, clearly modeled after the 1873 Colt Single Action Army. Nothing real special about it. It is just a single action revolver. This particular one is a 22. The Single Action Army from back in the day would have been a 44 caliber, most likely, that or a 38 or 36 caliber. So yeah, I'm sure that there were some 22 single action armies that existed in the time period, and if I don't bring them up, then I am sure that somebody somewhere is going to bring them up. So this is my acknowledgement of that. But clearly a single action army, clearly a single action army from 1873. Not a whole lot of power behind this one because it is just a 22. I would like to get my hands on one of these that is like a 45 long Colt or something like that. That would be really cool to have. I'm going to aim at that muffler there. Nice. I don't have particular targets I'm shooting at. I'm just kind of aiming at garbage that's out there. Alright, I think I have one more. Nice. That should be all of them, if memory serves. So, this right here is what a lot of people would be carrying around in the 1870s. That or previous generation Colts, such as the 1860 or 1851, or maybe a Remington New Model Army, etc., etc. Lots of options and availabilities out there. But in terms of cartridge firing systems, if this was the 1870s, this would be a state-of-the-art revolutionary handgun. Definitely would be significantly simpler and easier to reload in comparison to a cap and ball revolver. Just kind of knock those old cartridges out, slow by today's standards, and then you load new ones in. But much faster than a breech loading, or than a cap and ball firing system. Wow, I need to hydrate. It's a shame I just blew up my water. Anyway, folks, I had these out here. I wanted to talk about that because it was just an interesting idea for a video concept. So if this was the 1870s, dude, this would be cutting edge technology. But I actually had a group of guys stop by. This is a public gun range. They were like, wow, look at all those really old guns. And I'm like, yeah, they are really old guns, aren't they? There was a point in time where those were like cutting edge revolutionary technology, but by today's standards, definitely not. The 4570 is still quite the powerhouse of a cartridge to send lead downrange with, though. Anyway, folks, I think I've said my piece. I'm going to rest and hydrate because I've made quite a few videos so far today, and I've talked quite a lot. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. The description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day, and I will see you guys on the next episode. once I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.